All right, we're live. Let me try to keep this camera focused on me. Hello, thanks for joining us. Another episode of NFL Chat presented to you by www.sports-kings.com, and that's sports-kings, not to be confused with sports without a dash kings. No, 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 no. Dikembe Mutombo does not approve. Tonight with me I have David from Sports Kings.
Hey, I'm the baseball guy. We'll be ramping up baseball soon, but hey, it's football off season, and we're still coming off the Super Bowl. So a lot of good topics tonight. Can't wait to join in.
Also with us we have Shane from Sports-Kings.
It's good to be here. It's pretty close. We had less than a quarter inch of snow down here, and I almost wasn't able to make it.
And we have Brett from Sports Kings.
Just like Shane, I survived the snow, but we got a little more snow up here north. But I'm still here.
And last but not least, we have Austin from Sports Kings.
You know, if you're looking for some good snow, Utah has the greatest snow on earth. It's kind of our slogan, so come on down and check it out sometime.
That's too bad about your basketball team. So first we'll kind of kick into, we fielded a few questions on our like pages that we have on Facebook. There's a couple different ones. The main one you guys can check out is Sports-Kings. Just search that on Facebook and you can give us a like and, you know, kind of invoke some conversation there with us. The first thing I think Shane and Brett, you guys both want to talk about this a little bit, was the scheduling for 2014. Let's go with you, Shane.
Well, the question was how the NFL determines their opponents, and if they're talking about how the divisions are chosen, or which divisions play each other, that's kind of on a rotational basis, and the NFL scheduling committee will take whatever is in the rotation, and each division obviously plays 6 games within their own division. Then they'll play one non-conference division, one conference division, and then the 2 outlying games are played against the division the 2 divisions within their conference that place the same within their divisions. So, for example, the Cardinals this year they're going to play obviously everybody in the NFC West twice. Then they'll play the NFC East once each, the AFC West once each, and then those 2 outlying divisions that I'm talking about within the NFC North and the NFC South, they'll play the 3rd place finishers because that's where the Cardinals finished this year. So they'll play the Falcons and the Lions.
And we had a good graph the other day. Brett, I think you might have brought up that graph. I wasn't quite sure.
I did. The only thing I wanted to point out was last week when we talked about the Seahawks, and I pointed out that they play the Eagles, and they play the Saints, the Broncos, Kansas City, Carolina, Dallas, New York as well. That was actually right. I looked. That is actually who they play because they finished first. So based on first, they will play Carolina, and I think it's New Orleans as well. There's other teams that both finished first in their conferences.
So Brett's our sports manager our site manager over at Down and Distance. That's Sports Kings version of NFL football, and he is the smartest football guy ever.
Yeah, that's why he's the manager, obviously.
Yeah. That's why he's the boss. So our first topic, and I know this one's kind of watered down, a little easy to run through here, and that's Aaron Hernandez, barber, whose name is Robbie Alvarez. I think that's how you say it.
I just like the barber.
The barber, yeah, the barber. This guy's cutting more than hair. So he apparently could be a key witness to the murder from last June, June 2013. The one Aaron Hernandez is on trial for being, accused of, convicted of the murder of his ex-friend, I guess we would say, Odin Lloyd. Apparently, the barber, as he's now dubbed by Austin, apparently he overheard a conversation between Lloyd, or allegedly overheard a conversation between Lloyd and Hernandez, a conversation that put Lloyd at risk of Hernandez's wrath, so to speak. And so now we're talking about not practice, we're talking about the barber. Austin, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to one of our viewers, Keith. He was the one that asked the scheduling question, and I think Brett and Shane answered that well. So thank you very much for the question, and please ask your questions on a weekly basis, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show. We thank you a lot for that. And yeah, let me just tell you something about the old barbershop there. Never confide in your barber, because the conversations that you have with your barber are not going to stay with the barber. I mean, someone's doing your hair, and there's nothing else to do but, ask you how your day was, or what you plan on doing after you get back from the nightclub, and why you might own a gun or something like that. Don't tell your barber about that kind of stuff. But yeah, apparently Hernandez had his barber come over about 2 days before Hernandez was arrested for the deed. And yeah, he might have some information and may arise to be a key witness. Apparently, I believe he's already testified and given officials the property address of his house, and then also an apartment that he had. So things were looking a little like there wasn't overwhelming evidence to condemn Hernandez to the sentence for murder, but this barber issue could come back to bite him, and he may very well serve the time and get indicted for sure.
And fellas, I know it's the day before Valentine's Day, but the same thing goes for your ladies, your wife, your fiance, your girlfriend. Don't tell them incriminating things about yourself before they go to the nail salon or, to get their pedicures or whatever, because it's gossip central in those types of places. David, something about the Aaron Hernandez, the old Lloyd thing.
Yeah, I don't have a lot about it, but it's apparent that if as good as Aaron Hernandez is at being a tight end, he's probably not that good of a criminal. He's run with the wrong crowd. He's brandished weapons, done things, hung out with crowds that essentially could indict him, and bragged about things. And now you go to a barber. I mean, the barber shop, the nail salon, like you said, is the number one place that people talk. And you would think, like, if you did something like this, you would try to be discreet, like, okay, I don't like the guy. I'm not saying he did it or didn't, but if he was involved and he's bragging about it, you would do it and then not say anything. And if you're even saying anything but complete denial, then you're pretty much indicting yourself. So I don't know what to say for the guy. It's pretty apparent he runs with the wrong crowd, and he's not. He's got a lot of explaining to do, and I doubt he'll be out of state custody for a long time.
He broke my heart,
Yeah,
it's a sad story. It really is. It's a sad story because he had talent. Let me show you what Aaron Hernandez looks like. That's like his most famous pose right there.
It's too soon.
Do you guys think that his barber came over and he was cutting his hair and he was like, "So what do you got to do this week?" He's like, "I don't know, I got practice, got to go grocery shopping, got to kill a guy."
Yeah,
I mean, apparently the barber was present for whatever happened, a conversation, an action that pissed Hernandez off and pretty much prompted him to carry out the deed 2 nights later. He apparently he knows some details of that, so maybe some news will. I mean, you know how the law works, so we might be talking about this in 2 more months, but.
That's why I'm always walking around like I have some friends that are kind of shady, and I just act like I don't know anything. I don't know a thing.
Don't talk to the barber.
Yeah, you don't talk to the barber. So the next tidbit of news that we had was something else that's kind of up in the news this week, and that's Richie Incognito. So he kind of went on, I think it was yesterday, the little Twitter escapade where he talked about Jonathan Martin and his lies are going to bury him. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember the exact tweets that were sent out. But this is, in the wake of that lengthy text message that became public, not just one text message, but a stream of text messages between Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito, which really made Richie kind of seem like he was nothing more than perhaps a little childish, but Martin's friend after all, and really not this guy that was a huge bully to him. I mean, I think he bullied him a little bit, but maybe only in the sense that probably everyone has either done to their own friends or had done from their own friends to them. So, Shane, we'll go to you first. What do you think about this whole Incognito Jonathan Martin thing as of late?
Well, the first thing is I would not like my daughter or any of my female relatives hanging out with either of the guys. I don't think they're the type of men that I necessarily would want them hanging out with. However, as this whole saga unfolds, it kind of appears to, I think, most people that Martin is kind of the bad guy in this case, and Incognito and him were constantly joking daily almost on and hanging out a lot. So I think when you take a look at it, and it's kind of obvious that Martin was the one that really overstepped that, because if I send a friend of mine a text and it's just him and I talking about it, I kind of have some kind of sense of privacy that the communication is between us and it's not going to be shared with the public like Martin shared all those texts. So this is how I think this is going to end up for both of them. I would book it that Incognito is on a team next year and starting, and I would think it would be very hard for Martin to find a place where a team would feel comfortable bringing him into their locker room.
Well, and he's a good player too. Is the bottom line to this. We'll go right to you, Brett, because I know you had something to say about this whole Incognito Martin fiasco.
I actually found some of the tweets. Well, I found all of them, but he wrote things like, "Dear John Martin, the truth is going to bury you and your entire camp. You could have told the truth the entire time. I'm guilty of being a loyal friend and a good teammate. I'll apologize for my poor language and rude remarks. In fact, Jonathan Martin told me he thought about taking his own life in May 2013 because he wasn't playing well." And I actually disagree with Shane. I think if he's let go by Miami, he's going to struggle to find a team next year. This just comes off as kind of crazy. Like, what prompted him to do it now? Why is it this moment, this week, that he decided to go off on this long rant about Jonathan Martin? I mean, I don't think they're investigating it. I don't think it's going to court or anything else. So I just don't know why this is the time that he decided to go off. And as a Bills fan who are in need of a player like Jonathan or Incognito, I wouldn't want him on the team. He just seems like a head case, and I don't want that on my team. I don't want that affecting the offensive line. You know, a group of guys that are supposed to be close, that are supposed to practice together, eat together, spend their time together, protect the quarterback. I don't want him infecting my offensive line like that.
It kind of did seem like, though. I mean, I don't know if you read the text messages. I spent a good chunk of my night the night that I saw that they had come out, reading the long message after message after message, and it just seemed like a couple of guys. I mean, it seemed similar to, not the way that I talk to my friends now because, I'm an adult. I missed the quotes, shoot. But, maybe the way that you would have talked to your friends in high school. And I think a lot of these athletes, not just NFL players, do have maturity issues when they become, young men. And I think that kind of stems from the fact that they've been treated a different way their entire lives and they've gotten away with more. So I understand the way that they kind of went back and forth at each other. But it really, to Shane's point, it does seem like Jonathan Martin's kind of the bad guy in this situation. Yeah. Austin, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, I mean, this just kind of, I feel like me and my brother may have done this when we were younger, went up to our moms and be like, well, he said this, and I know I didn't say that, you said this, and you weren't supposed to tell anyone that. I just feel like it's a little childish, and I read a lot of the texts, and it just seemed like maybe Incognito thought that they were on a certain level of their relationship where they could say certain things to each other and still be okay and know that, these are things that we say to each other. We're teammates, and this is our idea of fun, and it may not look good on paper or whatnot, but we have an understanding, and something changed, and Jonathan Martin no longer found that kind of behavior and whatnot acceptable, and so he kind of reacted. And I think in a sense everyone is kind of a head case, but some people can't hide it as well. People like Jonathan Martin, who reacted off of that raw emotion there, and now both of their careers are kind of have a bad mark on them. But all in all, this is what we're talking about because we're waiting for August.
David, or actually, real quick before we go to David, Shane, you were trying to say something there before Austin chimed in.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that Incognito is a free agent at the end of the season, so his release is kind of immaterial. And the rumor is that there is an investigative report that Incognito has gotten a hold of and read called the Wells Report, so that may have prompted all his tweeting.
Okay, so real quick, let's finish this off with David because he didn't get a chance to go on this yet.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Richie Incognito, and I'm familiar with him. I'm a University of Texas football fan when he played for Nebraska, and he was always an instigator. There was always some edge to him, It was either at the edge or slightly over the edge, and this is, to me, is another example of that. And another example was also this preseason when there was a preseason game with the Texans, and him and Antonio Smith got into it, and Antonio Smith, otherwise a normal player, decided to rip his helmet off and throw it across and get suspended for 2 games. There's something about Incognito that just gets under your skin, and like you said, Andy, that is it like a high school thing? Like we've all had that guy in high school that knew how to push it just right over the edge and just get into your wickers. Like maybe that's what he did, and he constantly does that. And I'm with, I think it was Austin. I wouldn't sign him to my team. I think it's too much baggage. As talented as he is, it's just too much trouble to deal with this guy disrupting that clubhouse and being that guy that's playing on the edge. I just would pass. I'd find another guy.
There's something in the water there in Nebraska, huh? They produce some nice guys. So the last category we had here, and this is probably the most important one, and we've been promoting this on our Facebook pages, and I think we sent it out on Twitter as well. And that's we changed the name though. Initially we were talking about calling it our All Madden team, but I think we've decided to call it, and you're gonna love this because it's catchy, the Sports-Kings All Pro NFL Squad. And this isn't a whole team or anything. This is just going to consist of skill positions on offense, and we're going to give you a few linemen, a few linebackers, some defensive backs, and then we'll call it a. We don't mess with kickers here. Punters either. You don't get any love. So we'll start, and we'll kind of go around the table here as if we're at a round table here, and we'll go one by one, and everybody can give their picks. I guess the best place to start here is offense, because we all know that we'll say defense for last because defense clearly wins championships at this point.
Clearly.
Am I right, David?
That's right.
So,
you guys wouldn't listen. Now you're
all off season, I'm going to hear that. All off season.
Baseball
so
guy.
let's. I got to pop mine up on my phone here because I did this earlier at work. So let's start with the QB position, because that's what everybody's waiting for anyways, and that kind of is going to set the tone for our offenses anyways. You really can't get your offense going without your quarterback first. Teams like the Minnesota Vikings understand this. So let's go. We'll go right across, and we'll start with you, Austin. Who's your quarterback pick if you were making your All-Pro or your Madden team?
I got Captain America, number 12 behind center. He's been there. He's done that. And he's just a dream. I'm taking Tom Brady.
That's a shocker.
He's a dream boat. So we'll kick it right to you, Brett.
Well, my guy actually is a shocker, I think. I mean, if you listen to some of our old podcasts, I'm going with Colin Kaepernick as my quarterback.
Okay.
I'm building a certain type of offense, and I think he suits my offense well. So I'm going Colin Kaepernick.
And that's a good point that you bring that up too, because I did the same sort of thing. I felt like I was building a specific brand for my team, so I didn't necessarily go with the best player at each position, which is fine to do. I just kind of went with what I thought would flow best in my system because I'm like some excellent mastermind coach. David, let's go with your quarterback.
Yeah, we'll get a new guy in there, Aaron Rodgers. Like he was suffered this year with injury, but he's the guy. Then I don't really like him personally. I don't like the Packers. I'm not a fan of his, but the only guy that's going to go out and win games, that can manage the game, throw as he needs to, make good decisions, it's Aaron Rodgers.
So 3 people down, 3 different quarterbacks taken. This is already interesting. And let's see if Shane can make it 4 down, 4 quarterbacks taken. Shane, your pick.
If I was building a team, I would also agree with Dave. Aaron Rodgers, for my money, I don't see another quarterback in the NFL who can make the throws he makes. Some of the throws he makes across his body while moving to the right are amazing. Aaron Rodgers, if I was selecting the best quarterback for this year, I think I would obviously take Peyton Manning. But building a team, Aaron Rodgers all the way.
Now, would you take Rodgers with or without the mustache?
It only makes an appearance once a year in November, so we're good.
It's awful.
So now we've kind of Shane screwed it up and took the same quarterback as Dave. But I was going to do that anyways, and I went with Aaron Rodgers as well. So
nobody took Manning. Nobody took Manning. We don't want that guy. He's old. And he lost big time in the Super Bowl. It's still getting in with everybody. So we went through and we had a Tom Brady, we had a Colin Kaepernick, and 3 Aaron Rodgers.
Let's go right to the next one, which will be, I like to call it wide receiver A. So this would be your number 1 wide receiver. Austin, back to you.
Got to go with Megatron, Calvin Johnson. I bet you like that one, Andy. I mean, and even on the Facebook page, there was hardly anybody who left out Calvin Johnson. I think he's a shoo-in, and anyone who didn't pick him, shame on you.
Yeah, kind of hard to go against Calvin Johnson, but we'll go to you, Brett, and don't say Stevie Johnson.
Oh no, Megatron. I was gonna say shame on me, but no, have to go Calvin Johnson. He's just too good.
David, you're up.
Yep, Megatron, no question.
Shane?
I'm going to be the one guy who doesn't take Megatron, actually. And I'm not taking Larry Fitzgerald. I'm taking Josh Gordon. For my money, the guys that were throwing to him this year for the numbers that he put up, if I'm building a team, I can see Aaron Rodgers putting up big numbers with Josh Gordon. Megatron's a little older. Josh Gordon is only 22. Hard to believe. Hard to believe that a receiver that young put up those numbers this year with those quarterbacks.
And Megatron is a little older, a little better too. I'm going with Megatron as well. No surprise there. I mean, I should have worn my Calvin Johnson jersey.
You should have.
So we'll go back to you. So that round went Megatron, and Josh Gordon. We'll go back to you, Austin, with your wide receiver number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 is actually Josh Gordon. You know, he had an amazing year, and you know, if you want to go back to my quarterback, imagine what Josh Gordon would be if he had Brady throwing in the ball. Ooh, I love it. I'm loving my team so far, guys.
Brett.
I'm going with Demaryius Thomas. I almost went Josh Gordon. I tried to pick a speedier guy, and I think Demaryius Thomas has the speed. He's also a bigger guy. I like 2 big wide receivers. It's got to be hard to stop Megatron and Thomas.
David, on to you.
A different guy, AJ Green, big, physical, can pretty much dominate, as athletic as they come. I'd go with AJ Green and Calvin Johnson. How can you not like that pair?
Shane.
Well, it looks like we're all going to have different 1B receivers because I'm not taking Fitzgerald for this one either. I'm taking Antonio Brown. I actually thought he's had very good numbers. He had 110 catches this year, and he also offers a dual option because he can return kicks.
And Jim Ricalto slipped you a $20 bill, didn't he?
Exactly. I knew somebody would dime me out.
So I'm, to stay trendy, and I didn't do my homework, so I'm just picking every guy David did. I went with AJ Green as well. So for that round, let me see if I can get this right because this was mixed up a little bit. We had a Josh Gordon, we had a Demaryius Thomas, we had an AJ Green, we had an Antonio Brown, and then we had another AJ Green. So on to the next, and this is is a new position. We're going to go with tight ends. Everybody gets to pick one. Austin, tight end to you.
Well, I want to go with Tony Gonzalez, but he just retired, so I'm going to cross him out because he just retired. I think last year everybody would have taken him. I feel like greatest tight end of all time.
Throwing the ball anymore.
I know it, right? But yeah, so Tony Gonzalez, best tight end of all time. But current players, that is the topic, and I got to go with my boy Gronk. Not only because when he's healthy, he gets it done, but he's just so much fun. I mean, the world is a better place with some Gronk.
He's never healthy.
Gronk smash. So Brett, on to you.
Oh, sorry, I had to laugh because when Austin was talking, I was like, why don't you just tell us it's going to be Rob Gronkowski? Why don't you just show us your poster of him with his shirt off behind you? Tell us how much you love him.
Just flash my tattoo.
I'm going Jimmy Graham. I mean, he actually stays healthy. He's a better Gronkowski because he knows how to stay healthy. I'm going Jimmy Graham.
David, on to you.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham as well. He would put up all the numbers. He's a beast. You can't guard him. He's too big. He's a basketball player. A football uniform, Jimmy Graham.
Shane.
I'm going with Jimmy Graham too, so we kind of show what a homer that Austin is in the tight end position. Jimmy Graham led all receivers, wide receivers and tight ends with 16 touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse for Austin, I went with Jimmy Graham as well. And David, we're still on the same page here, buddy. I think we know who the best at picking these things are. So we had one Rob Gronkowski, and the rest were Jimmy Graham's there. And now we're on to our running back. I think this, to me, real quick, so I can break this up, is I think the running back is going to be interesting because it's kind of important. Obviously, it's going to kind of dictate the pace of these teams a little bit. We'll go with you first, Austin. Who's your running back?
I took Matt Forte, man. I've been all about.
You love
Matt
that
Forte.
guy, don't you?
I really do love that guy. He's been consistent. He's only had 2 seasons since he's been in the league where he just barely missed 1,000 yards rushing, and he's been consistent. He's solid over there when you're dealing with a defense that isn't the same, and Jay Cutler that is never consistent. You want some consistency, you go with Matt Forte. He's been getting it done, and I want him on my Madden team.
Jay Cutler consistently has a hot wife. Brett, on
Very
you.
true.
Well, when we talked Josh Gordon, we talked about what he could do with a real quarterback, and my running back pick actually showed what he can do with a real quarterback. I know it's a little different because he's not passing the ball, but I'm going Jamal Charles. He can receive it out of the backfield. He can get you the touchdown and the goal line. He can do it all. I'm going Jamal Charles.
David.
Yeah, I agree with the Abominable Snowman there. We're going to go with Jamal Charles. He's my guy. Versatility, speed. He's a track guy. He's a University of Texas guy. He ran track, elite 100-yard runner, and he's big. He's physical. He does it all. Jamal Charles.
Shane. You see what I did there?
I was tempted to go with LaShawn McCoy, but as I took a look at it, Philadelphia has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Jamal Charles does not. Plus, he has a quarterback that doesn't throw down the field like Nick Foles does and have a deep threat like as fast as Deshaun Jackson. So I agree with the Abominable Snowman and Dave. Jamal Charles, I believe if he was behind Philadelphia's offensive line, he would probably break 2,000 yards.
And I went with Jamal Charles as well.
So much for diversity.
I have it written down here. It's just funny. I mean, I just think we're both really good at this, David. I mean, and everybody's kind of hating on that.
We will disagree on defense. I've got some wild cards.
I guarantee you. The defense is where it's going to get interesting, and that's where we are now.
Well, let me just mention real quick. A lot of people on Facebook were picking AP, and rightly so. And I'm actually surprised that none of you guys picked Adrian Peterson.
I picked McCoy.
He would have screwed up my flow. I had Jamal Charles and I had LaShawn McCoy. And you guys all know from anybody who's watched the show, and you guys obviously on the panel know that I'm like on the Marshawn Lynch train, 2 feet, both arms. But he screws up the flow of my offense, I think. Yeah. So I had to go with the guy who catches passes.
That's what I did. I went Charles because I feel like with Kaepernick, he gives you a dimension where he can receive it out of the backfield. I like LaShawn McCoy. He's just not as consistent. Adrian Peterson doesn't get enough receptions, and I don't think Lynch does either.
So, Shane, you're the only one that really didn't get a word in there edgewise. Do you have anything to say about these offensive selections so far?
No, I think we're pretty much on the same page. I would like Austin to maybe mention a few of the readers for their offensive picks if he has them available.
Yeah, there was. I did see one reader that was on the Kaepernick wagon for sure, just because he was mobile and he had a gun. You had some Drew Brees in there. You had a few Peyton Mannings, some Brady's. I wasn't the only one that went Brady, guys. So.
I bet you're the only one that went Brady and Gronkowski though.
I can tell you one that we didn't mention of all, because if you think about it, we had a lot more wide receivers because we all selected 2. There's one I'm seeing right off the top, and this is Mekhi McNeil. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He took Kelvin Johnson and Julio Jones. I didn't even really think about Julio Jones. That actually is a very scary duo right there.
I thought about Andre Johnson for a bit, but he's getting up there in age.
Yeah. And he took Jimmy Graham as well, and he took Peyton Manning and Marshawn Lynch. So he kind of has a diverse offense that had a couple different picks than any of us did. Let me see if I can find another one real quick. We have a guy who didn't even name 2 wide receivers there. Let's look at this one. Okay, so we have a Peyton Manning, Kelvin Johnson, Josh Gordon, Jimmy Graham, and Adrian Peterson here. This next one is a Tom Brady. So Austin was not lying. This one was a Tom Brady, A.J. Green, Kelvin Johnson, Jimmy Graham, Adrian Peterson. That's also another good one. So yeah, it was kind of diversified on the page there a little bit. And that's only one of the pages. I think we posted it to 3 pages, right, Austin?
Correct.
So that's just from one page, so it's a small sample size. Let's move on without any further ado to the defenses, because I think this is the part where it's going to get a little interesting. And we'll start with the defensive linemen. You get 3 of these. It can be defensive tackles, DNs. You can pick 3 DNs if you feel like it, I guess. I think that would be kind of silly, but to each their own. if you want an all-speed rushing defense, that would be kind of interesting to see. So let's go, Austin. Who's your, we'll say the D-line 1.
I hope I'm not stealing Brett's thunder here, but one that jumped off the page for me was Mario Williams. I mean, lights out, man. Love that guy. I want him on my team for sure.
Brett, your turn to say Mario.
He is stealing my thunder because it's Mario. He's my number 1. He's on my team. My first Bill. I can actually pick a Bills player. It's shocking.
I had 3 tries and I didn't pick a Bill. David.
Well, if we're going number 1, I'll say Mario for later. So I'm going to go with my homeboy, J.J. Watt. He played on a team that was battered this year. But if you got to go with athleticism, a guy that can rush the quarterback and do it all, it's J.J. Watt.
Shane, you're number 1.
I'm going to agree with Dave again. J.J. Watt, for me, was hands down the best defensive lineman this year, and I see him going forward as one of the most dominant in the game.
And this was the point where David and I's little relationship might have almost broken up, but it didn't because I picked J.J. Watt as well.
Wow, okay.
I mean, we're best friends at this point. I think that we should shoot Step Brothers the sequel, or at least get the photo taken so I can hang it in my house.
I mean, he was even wreaking havoc on quarterbacks in the Pro Bowl. That is not a bad pick at all.
He's a ridiculously bad man, and he's gonna look even better next to my defensive tackle.
Agreed.
So let's go with you, Austin.
All right, my number 2, I got to go with my boy that stepped up big this year, Chandler Jones in New England. What a beast. You know, we had all these injuries on our defensive line, and Chandler Jones steps in with some others like Ninkovich and stuff, and they ran that defense. That was a top 10 defense despite all the injuries. I want Chandler Jones on my team. Plus, you know, I can go to a bar with him and his brothers, and I'm not going to get beat up. You know, I'm in good hands.
I don't think you're going to get beat up going to a bar with any defensive lineman. Brett, let's go with your D2 is what
I'm putting in my defensive tackle here because I want end tackle end. So if I'm going in Dominican Sue, I'm sure Andy's going to love that. Have to go with Sue. I thought about Marcel Darius. I was pretty close to putting him in there, but Sue's bigger, dirtier. Have to go with Sue.
David, your turn for your DL2.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dominican Sue also. Again, another Nebraska guy that basically is just, if he could just control his temper a little bit, and he's so well-spoken and all those type things, but I mean, the guy is just unstoppable. So I've got Watt and Sue so far. Good luck guarding my defensive line.
Shane, your DL2.
Well, before I make my selection, I just want to say that Austin Peete has reached his quota of Patriot players he can select.
Uh-oh.
So I think the Step Brothers are evolving into the Three Stooges because I'm going to take Sue also. I considered McCoy, but Sue is just for his lack of injury history, how young he is. I just think he's the right choice.
Well, I'm putting the quarter in the machine, pulling the slot, and we're going in Dominican Sue as well. J.J. Watt and Dominican Sue, I mean, that combination is just out of control. Austin Beck.
Wait, Andy, before we go forward, without looking at your phone, can you spell in Dominican Sue? Because I know I can.
No, I can't.
It's Ndamukong.
Yep, there we go. I had to write it too many times. I figured it out.
I've written it a few times myself when I write, and Dominican Sue is awesome on my wall. Austin, back to you with your third defensive lineman.
All right, my final one. He played really great this year, but he's definitely been better in other years. But I got to go with Jared Allen, man. Jared Allen for sure. Every team needs a cowboy, and there's my cowboy right there, Jared Allen.
Let's go with you, Brett, on your third defensive line.
I'm going with a young gun finally, and he's had back-to-back years where he's been impressive. He does it on an okay defense. I'm going with Robert Quinn from St. Louis.
And we'll move that right along to you, David. Who's your third defensive line?
All right, we may finally disagree if you're true about the Buffalo Bills, because I'm going to go Mario Williams. He's a big, tall edge rusher. He's the guy that puts the pressure on the quarterback. He's a former Texan. I was in favor of not signing him. It's too much money, but I got to go with another guy. It's going to be Mario Williams. Williams, Watt, and now Sue. How can you beat that?
And you disappoint me, David. On to you, Shane.
All right.
Shane, your third defensive lineman. Shane.
Shane may be frozen.
Frozen or asleep. Let's move on to you, Andy.
I think Shane fell asleep. Kids at home watching. This is what happens when you start to age. We're all getting up there. I'll go with man, this breaks my heart, David, because we fell off. It was like you wouldn't share the door with me in the sea when we were floating from Titanic. And I went with a young guy here because I felt like, and I'm trying to eat clock here a little bit to give Shane a chance to come back. But I went with Greg Hardy from the Panthers. I feel like I like the combination of what him and Watt can do on the outside with Sue in the middle as the space heater. That was essentially my logic there. So we'll go. Hopefully we get Shane back here. We'll go back to.
I think Dave's reached his quota of Texas Longhorns too. No more Longhorns for Dave.
I've only had the one, Jamal Charles. The Texans and Longhorns, maybe both, but there will be more Longhorns. I'm telling you now.
We'll jump back to you, Austin, and this is obviously we're into the new position here, and that's linebackers. You get two of these. Who's your first linebacker?
I got to go with Robert Mathis to start that off. He played great in Indianapolis. Like, it's too bad that they couldn't push through and get further into the playoffs. But Robert Mathis, man, what a hero over there. He's no longer a sidekick. He runs that defense, and it shows.
Brett, who's your first linebacker selection?
Well, I'm starting to turn into Austin over here. But I got to go Kiko Alonso. I wanted an inside linebacker. I want the legends to continue on my team. I'm going Kiko. He's young. Brian Urlacher loves him, and you can't get a better endorsement than that. I'm going Kiko Alonso.
David, let's bring this one back home. Okay, pal,
Yeah.
Who's your first linebacker selection?
You know it. Number one is, and I may not pronounce it, Luke Kuechly or Kuechly.
Did we just become best friends again?
Yes.
Because I took Luke Kuechly too. I don't know how to pronounce his name either, but he's on my team.
Yeah, no, the guy's a stud. He's all over the damn field and leads that defense. I mean, look at that team, the way it went from one year to the next. It's Kuechly.
Yeah, he's nasty. Well, Austin, back to you with your second linebacker pick.
And I'm kind of curious to see when Shane comes back. I think he's on his way back. If he picked my second one, maybe as his first perhaps, but I had to go with John Abraham. He's a monster as well. He's on my Madden team. Final answer.
Brett, your second linebacker.
I'm going with Tamba Hali from Kansas City. He's been doing it a couple years now. I think he's been leading that defense. He turned them around with the help of a few other players in Kansas City. So I'm going Hali, and then my inside is Kiko Alonso. Had to sneak it back in there.
You had to see that plugging that in.
Kiko.
David, we'll go to you with your second linebacker. I assume this is again where we fall off the ship.
Right, probably. I'm going with Vontaze Burfict, like the Cincinnati Bengal. The guy was a stud. He was made a difference in that team. Look towards the future, and he's going to be the kind of guy that is the dominant linebacker and may lead that team finally to a playoff win.
And I would be absolutely lying if I said I honestly I was looking at him. That's so weird.
Right.
But ultimately, I have met my Lions quota too, and I'm going with DeAndre Levy. I feel like he's a good compliment at the outside linebacker. Yeah. Shane, you're back. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Look at that. So let's catch you up. You owe a third defensive lineman, and now you owe both linebackers. Why don't you just jump right into all three?
All right. For my defensive lineman, I chose a 3-4, a 4-3, and a defensive tackle. So I tried to spread it out. And I agree with Brett. I took Robert Quinn. I watched at least two games from the Rams this year when they played the Arizona Cardinals, and Robert Quinn just made Levi Brown look like a turnstile.
All right, and your two linebackers.
I guess I'm just going off the cuff here. I took because I don't know any of your picks. I took Robert Mathis. He led the league in sacks. Have to go with him. And the second guy I took was the defensive player of the year, Luke Kuechly. I was actually kind of on the fence about him. I took him because of his age, but he did miss a lot of tackles this year. If you guys were watching him.
No John Abraham, huh?
And
no Abraham.
Austin had Mathis, if I do recall correctly. was one of his selections, and David and I, because we're like kindred spirits here, we both had Keekly on our squads. So that's gonna lead us right into cornerbacks, and you get 2 of those. So let's start with our number 1 cornerback. Our guy's covered in Megatron apparently because he was like everyone's pick except Shane's. So Austin, who's your first cornerback?
There wasn't very many, if any, people on the Facebook pages that left this man out. We could probably make this real quick, gentlemen. I think everyone picked Richard Sherman. If not, speak up. But yeah, that's my number 1 cornerback, Richard Sherman.
Brett.
Mine, Shane's going to like me, but I went Patrick Peterson. He's a young guy. He's speedy. Okay. He covers the number 1s. I went Patrick Peterson.
And with a sorry ass, never mind. But David, who is your number 1 cornerback?
Definitely Sherman. He's the new guy on the island. Richard Sherman's the class right now, no question.
Shane.
I also took Richard Sherman. So I mean, it's kind of a sweep there, except for Brett. Although I appreciate the nod to Patrick Peterson.
And we can go golfing. Minus Brett, because we have a foursome, baby, because I took Richard Sherman, too.
There you go.
Let's go with our number 2.
Number 2 should
Austin.
And, real quick with Brett, I don't think Brett made a bad pick at all. I think Sherman, you might argue that Sherman gets number 1 because he's got a bigger mouth and he's in the media more and people know his face more, but not a bad pick from Brett at all. My number 2, I'm kind of buying into this 100% healthy talk here, and I'm going to go with the old man on campus and have Revis be on the other side. I think that island could be back next year. I'm kind of excited. I really hope that we get back to that Darrelle Revis status that we're all familiar with.
Okay, Brett.
You know what? You might have thought I was holding out on Richard Sherman. I'm not. I'm going with Austin. I'm going Darrelle Revis too. Not only was he a pick, Brad, have to love him for that, but I think he did well this year, and healthy next year is going to be great. I go with the young gun with Peterson and the old guy with Darrelle Revis.
So weird that we're calling him the old guy these days. David.
All right, Austin will appreciate this pick, but Aqib Talib, he's the guy that got knocked out of that championship game that changed the whole complexion. And a little bit experienced guy, another Big 12 guy out of Kansas, but Talib is a guy that is free agent, and I would go after hard.
Shane, on to you.
Well, this is where I picked Patrick Peterson. I agree that Darrelle Revis played well this year, and the way his contract is structured, the fact that Tampa Bay can cut him without any dead money hits on his contract encourages him to play well. But if I'm building a team, Patrick Peterson and Richard Sherman in the backfield is all I need.
And actually, I'm kind of surprised here because I'm going to pick somebody that nobody else has picked yet, and this is the 10th, cornerback selection, and he hasn't been picked yet. I'm going with Joe Hayden. Love the guy. Let's move right into our safety. We get 1 safety. No pluralizing that one. And we'll start again with you, Austin, on safety.
I just had to go with Earl Thomas, and Earl Thomas. That's all I got to say.
Brett.
I finished my picks with my token Buffalo Bill again. I went, hopefully for now. I picked Jarius Byrd. I didn't want to go Earl Thomas, so I was trying to avoid the obvious names. I think Byrd fits more into my style, less physical, more go out and grab the ball, interceptor.
David, on to you.
Could not agree with Austin more. Earl Thomas, hook 'em horns, Super Bowl champion. The guy was a ball hawk with interceptions and a tackle monster, and he was the leader of the defense. He was the guy that was basically the captain of that secondary that led him to the Super Bowl. Earl Thomas, my safety.
Shane, your safety pick.
The trio of top safeties in this league is led by Earl Thomas. I've got Eric Berry and Eric Reed also on my list, but I agree with Dave and Brett or was it Austin? I agree Earl Thomas is the safety.
And I went with somebody Shane just mentioned, and that was Eric Berry. And that'll finish us off. Anything anyone has to say that jumps out to them about the defensive picks?
There was as far as what some of our viewers were picking, there was some Aqib Talib in there. Sherman pretty much all across the board. Let's see, Earl Thomas was in there as well, and I can't really remember a lot of. If someone has it up, let me know. But
I'm looking right now. I can give you a few here. I see a lot of Sues. I see a lot of Earl Thomas. I see a Vince Wilfork in here. I see.
That's your wallpaper, not Sue. Not people naming Sue. That's your wallpaper.
No,
I would have taken Wilfork like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
But
well,
now
he's still a space heater at least.
Oh, yeah, still a stud, but
and a cap casualty this year.
Right.
So what about a guy like Von Miller? Where would Von Miller fit?
Yeah, I almost put Von Miller in there instead of Robert Quinn. I went Quinn because he's younger and he has 19 sacks.
I see a Cam Chancellor. This guy pretty much took off Seahawks, though.
Yeah,
I was gonna look and say we didn't have guys like Navarro Bowman or Elton Smith or Clay.
Hard to take Bowman with that catastrophic knee injury.
Yeah, I had Bowman at first, and then I ended up going Levy over him.
No Clay Matthews.
Because of that.
No Clay Matthews and no Julius Peppers either, too.
Yeah, actually, I think Clay Matthews has fallen off. I mean, the only thing anybody really thinks about anymore with him, like in popularity-wise at least, but his hair, everybody loves
Michael
that.
Bolton hair. Mm.
And I thought about it too, and one of my favorite players for a few years has been Troy Polamalu, but just to the point in his career where you still see him make good plays, but he's always hurt. Trying to think of other guys that I had really pondered over. Revis, I mean, a couple of you guys went with Revis. Revis was one that I had in there before Hayden, and I don't know, you kind of change your mind, but I think that'll about wrap us up for the night. It was a good show, something a little different. I think you guys viewing can expect a little bit more of this type of show from us week in and week out. Now that we're into the off season, we're into the smooth roll of things. A little bit of news here and there, but for the most part, we'll be trying to come up with some of these interesting things. And if you don't follow us already, you can follow us on Facebook at Sports-Kings. Just type that into your search engine, and you can click that like button. The other page that we also have that's pretty interesting, place where we got a lot of these answers tonight, is NFL Best Sport Ever. Type that into your search bar the same way on Facebook, and you can find us. Or engage with us on Twitter at Real Sports Kings. And give some ideas. I mean, we're going to be going to the mailbag sort of thing more often and giving you guys some good interactive questions week in and week out. Any final thoughts from the panel?
People, don't tell the barber.
Do not tell the barber.
3 more weeks until the NFL free agency opens, and then we're right in the draft, and then it's preseason. We're getting close, guys. We're getting real close.
Baseball season starts soon.
Yeah, I knew David was going to chime in with that one because he's like, why are you overlapping my baseball season? Until next time, everyone, don't forget to check out www.sports-kings.com. We'll see you on the flip side.